Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals, one of the most watched and viewed podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery. I'm Randall Carlisle. My co-host Rachel Santizo could not be here today, but we have a very special guest when we're talking about recovery, Tiffany Naccarato,
yes,
right? Did I get
you.
that right? And she, it's really funny. We're not good friends, but we run into each other all the time at places dealing with addiction and recovery, right? And I would call you a really prominent and wonderful ambassador for recovery. Is that fair? See, I'm
You're making me blush already.
That'd be like if I said you're beautiful. Do you think you're beautiful? Oh, well, no, but you really do a wonderful job, and you're everywhere. And part of that is because of who you are, and the other part is because you work for USARA. What's your position there?
So currently, I am the program manager over the Salt Lake team, the long-term coaches. And then I'm also the community empowerment coordinator.
Okay.
So I hold two positions.
And for people, I'm not sure you're aware, but there are people all over the country and really all over the world, because we get responses from places like Russia and Ukraine and places like that, who are watching this. But I maintain, and I guess I'm biased because we're here, but I maintain that Salt Lake City and Utah in general has a huge recovery community.
Huge.
And active.
Blessed. Mm-hmm.
With activities like what? Not just staying clean, but...
Yeah, we have many. So USARA holds a whole bunch of different events throughout the year, such as Recovery Day in September, which is September 9th at Jordan Park this year. And then also, like, we have a Spring Earth Day event coming up this weekend where we believe that families recover together. And so individuals can bring their families, they can come by themselves and meet other people in the community to bond with. And that's going to look like planting seeds, and that we're going to do an egg hunt and all that, a DJ, music, just to smile and have fun.
Normal people do.
Yes.
Right? And one of the things that we all promote is the fact, and it's one of the things I had trouble looking at when I was beginning my journey to recovery, is can I really have fun without being high?
Definitely. It is a big switch, right? Because we've learned for so many, well, at least I did, for so many years to numb out the fun, and we thought it was fun, or I thought it was fun. Right. And because at first addictions start being fun and casual and, oh, this is a nice change. And then it becomes a part of life. And so you attach that funness to that substance. Yeah. And so then when you get sober, it's like, oh my gosh, you have to relearn how to enjoy things. And it does take time, and there's still, I'm 6 years in, almost 6 years in. And there are things I'm like, okay, is this going to be enjoyable? And then, you just have,
mine is like being in crowds at a party or something with people who are drinking and stuff like that. And it's hard at first. My biggest one was, I used to get drunk every time I played golf. So I'd drink a beer on every hole. And by 18 holes, I was feeling no pain. And when I first got sober, I thought, can I even hit the golf ball if I'm sober? And I was scared that first time out. And it worked okay. I wasn't any better. I wasn't any worse. So drinking didn't help me,
Yeah. And that happens a lot. We have individuals that come in and they're like, oh, I used to fly fish, or I used to go bowling, or whatever it is. And at USARA, we help bring communities, people in the community to enjoy those hobbies sober. And so, I had an individual that really wanted fly fishing. I'm like, I don't know anyone that fly fishes, but let's help find some people. And he found two people that were in his, in the courtroom with him. And that was really empowering for him. And so I hope he's out there fly fishing with them now.
If you're out there fly fishing, enjoy. You mentioned that you are in recovery for how long? 6 years?
Almost 6 years, okay. May 30th, 2017.
So let's get into the time that you weren't in recovery. How did your addiction start? Tell us a little of your story.
Yeah. So growing up, I was a very good student kid. I obeyed the rules and never got in trouble. I was actually listed like the golden child, right?
Really?
And yes, and very obedient. And I just was experimenting a little bit in my teenage years, but my addiction didn't start till later on. I was actually 24, and
that's late for a lot of people.
Yeah. And heartbreak took me out, and I always say
a breakup or
just failing in my marriage,
Okay.
and infidelity and just that kind of stuff. And so, anyways, that took me out. And I always say heartbreak took me out, but love brought me back in. And so it's beautiful how the journey has been, and I can connect those things and still see the love back then, and now I get to look at love differently. So that was an amazing.
So how long before heartbreak and love brought you back in?
I was out. So I started using at 24. I used for 1 year straight. And then I ended up getting pregnant with my second child and was able to get sober and start rebuilding my life again, because I had lost it in that year. And got back together with my husband, and we created another little child, and we had the white picket fence. I was on the PTA board. I was at the school. I was helicopter mom, taking kids everywhere, and just like living this life that I really had dreamed of since a little kid. That was my number one dream. I want to grow up and be a mom with the white picket fence. Wanted white furniture, wanted my house spotless, and be the perfect wife with dinner on the table at 6 p.m. And I had that.
So what happened?
So when my husband and I got back together, we didn't work on the things that were missing before. And the marriage just was not succeeding the expectations that I had, Again, going off that dream of a little kid, I just thought that life was supposed to be perfect. And we all know that life is not perfect. Right. Why don't we teach at a young age that when you grow up, it's not going to be perfect, right? I try to teach my kids that now.
I think we hesitate because we don't want to create such a negative image. Say, you may be in love, but it's not always wonderful.
No, it's not what the Disney movies show.
Okay, so you get back with them, and then you had everything allegedly perfect. Mm-hmm. What happened after that?
So I started seeking out the fun or just an escape, because I wasn't getting what I needed in the home. So I would actually do my mom duties all day, and then I would tuck my kids in and read them a book and kiss them goodnight. And then at 9:00 or 9:30, I would get in my car and go live a different life at night. For a couple years, I did that.
What was a different life?
It would be going to people's houses to use substances, and then I started like driving people around to do criminal activity. And if you go back, like I never got in trouble, right? And that kind of excited me because I was always obedient.
Danger.
Mm-hmm. I was like, and I was well off compared to the people that I were hanging out with, right? I had the nice car. I always had money. I had all this stuff. And
hey, let's call Tiffany. She's got money.
I'm getting the attention, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Tiffany can drive, or we can get away with stuff because Tiffany has the nice car. They won't think that, or whatever that looked like. And so that was excitement. And
your drug of choice back then?
At that time, so it started with meth, and then it went to heroin. And then I think at that time it was meth again. Yeah, when I was doing it was my main drug of use was meth and heroin. I know. Because
it keeps you skinny, right?
Yeah.
little vanity here. Yeah.
Yes, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The car, the skinniness. Here we go.
Yeah, okay.
And then I would get back home at 5:30 in the morning. And
with no sleep, obviously.
No sleep. And I actually would sit in the driveway and wait for my husband to come out and get in his truck. And he would look at me and he would know what I was doing. And he would wave or be pissed because sometimes I'd be late and he'd make him late for work. And he'd go to work and then I'd walk in.
You're going to be the perfect mom again for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Did they know? That,
I'm sure they did.
You know.
And my oldest daughter, she's 24 now. She knew a lot of stuff she was doing.
And this can't go on forever. So what happened? You know.
So yeah, it just was getting.
I mean, your husband must have been, oh, it's Tiffany coming in from being out all night again. You know. Yeah,
and he co-signed my behaviors. You know, and he was. I take full accountability, but he was part of the experience. You know what I mean? And so
he enabled you to let it go.
Yes, okay. And then things just started happening at the house. I started bringing people around, right? And now I'm sleeping in, and my house is a disaster. DCFS gets called because my little one is out in the front yard without a parent, and we lived on a busy street. Like, things were just unraveling.
And you were going to be the perfect parent, and you weren't anymore.
No,
wow.
Nope. Dinner not on the table. Kind of makes me sad. I remember my middle child telling me, when I got sobered, that he was hungry a lot, and that he
really,
yeah. No,
that must have tugged at your
really
heart.
Sad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So things are unraveling.
Yeah, unraveling. We had somebody that overdosed at the house in the middle of the night, and my kids got to experience that, and that was traumatic, you know. So things started, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this anymore. And I remember one day I had my drug dealer pull up in his little red car. I gave my husband the keys to my car, and I had two of my children at the doorstep with me holding onto my legs, and my oldest was in school. And I ripped their hands away from my legs and told them I'll be back. And I left, and I never came back.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to deal with. So where did you go?
Went and was unsheltered for 6 years. I went.
Would you call it homeless or unsheltered?
Unsheltered and unhoused. Like, I had some money, and I would have hotel rooms.
Okay.
That first, though, let me just say, that first night I didn't know what I was going to do, and I walked around in Sandy, and I actually slept in behind a bush in 7-Eleven. So I left my white picket fence, all my nice material things,
house.
And then my main loves of my life, my kids, right? And
you're
because
sleeping
addiction.
Behind a bush at a 7-Eleven.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's a quick change.
Mm-hmm. Just like that.
Although you had been leading up to that, if you think about it. Right?
Yes. And just leaving my greatest loves, my kids, to go sleep behind a bush is pretty big. The addiction had me. It had me, and I was so ashamed, and I could not comprehend, like, just ask for help. Just get, you know, I was lost.
And you're what this part in the story is not over, obviously, but this part of the story, for people who are watching or listening and wonder about the power of addiction, here's a woman who for forever just wanted to be the perfect mom, and she had everything correct. Then she becomes addicted, and it gets to the point that the loves of your life, your kids, you sort of throw them away because the drugs are more important than the kids.
Mm-hmm. And
people who are not dealing with addiction can't understand.
Yeah.
You know,
I know my family,
like,
they're
boy,
like,
you're
what
awful.
You're a bad person,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And it wasn't that I was bad. It wasn't. I was very, very sick.
The disease of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to stop and point that out, because it just sounds like, how could you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can do it because you're dealing with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So you said for 6 years you were like that?
6 years.
What happened during those 6 years?
A lot of trauma happened out on those streets. You know, I seen a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff happened to me. A lot of abuse happened to me. And I started racking up charges, because now I'm in survival mode, and I gave no cares, right? I was just going to do whatever I needed to do to support my habit and numb from the missing kids.
I was going to say, the whole time, just because you're in addiction doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it does supersede all those feelings that you have deep down inside. And so for somebody like you, who probably felt horrible guilt the whole time you were out there, doing the drug numbs your mind, slows everything down, and it sort of eases the guilt you're feeling, right?
Mm-hmm. And every time there was silence in my world being out there, I would hear kids crying.
Oof.
Like it was prison in my life, in my head the whole time I was out there. So then I had to be busy. I had to be talking all the time. I would even talk to myself all the time. And like I would hear every time I would try to sleep, it was kids screaming in my head over and over again for 6 years. It happened the first night behind that bush. And then year after year after year, I would just hear, and I wouldn't identify them as my kids, but it was kids just screaming. And I was like,
Wow.
Oh my gosh, get me out. It was hell.
I guess. And so you were committing crimes, you were assaulted, you were dealing with all this guilt and voices in your head. I mean, if you would have come to a treatment center, they'd say, well, I think you need to go to mental health first, you know. So.
And then I get pregnant again.
Well, that was a mistake.
Oh my gosh. Such a beautiful, beautiful little boy though, that I do have.
Okay, I'm not saying he's a mistake, but it wasn't the ideal time.
It was
to get.
Irresponsible, I'll say
okay,
that.
That's
but
fair.
my whole life was irresponsible.
Part of it, yeah.
So
you're pregnant out on the street.
Pregnant on the street.
Using?
Using at that time meth, and still unhoused. And the person I got pregnant by, we wanted to keep it secret and not tell anybody.
You only can for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and I actually did. I can't tell exactly how long, but it was around 7 months, 6.5 months that I kept it.
Well, you're slim, and you wouldn't, if you wore loose clothes, you wouldn't.
Yep, I wore big sweatshirts in the middle.
Okay.
Right, when it was so hot.
Yeah.
And we wanted to keep it because secret because one, so we could keep using, right?
Okay.
Because the addiction again is so up there. And then
the guy who got you pregnant was also using.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So go ahead.
It was the man that pulled up to pick me up from the kids when I left the kids.
Okay.
So and then we wanted, because I didn't want my kids to know, right? He also had children in his home that we didn't want another DCFS case, because that would happen.
Sure.
No insurance. I had no insurance. I didn't know where to get care at. All the resources I know that are available now, I didn't know one of those.
So you had no medical care during your pregnancy? No
medical care. I would go to the hospital a few times during that pregnancy, and for like an abscess or like I had preeclampsia, right? And then they knew, but the abscess, they didn't know I was pregnant. Like,
sure.
No one asked me, there's a gap there, or there was a gap there, I should say, in my story, that medical care didn't intervene because
So you don't want your kids to know. He doesn't want his kids to know. Where are you staying?
Oh, yes. We are staying in the basement of his parents' house.
And his parents don't know
and
either.
His parents do not. Sweetest couple ever. And so lovely and kind. And they really did adore me, and they treated me so kind. But they wouldn't have approved of me living there. And so actually he was living there. I was living there in secret again. So here I am hiding my pregnancy and then hiding where I'm living. And how do you do that? He would have me hide underneath his bed for all day while he was at work. 'Cause he did work. And I would hide underneath. The bed was tall with the blankets down.
It had to be.
And
even though you're small, but you're pregnant,
Well, it wasn't tall enough for me to like even sit up. I'd have to lay down the whole time. Mm-hmm.
All day long.
All day long. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What did you do? What did you do or think while you were going through that? I think that'd be hard for anybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, stay under a bed all day.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little much because this is the first time I've shared this on a public platform. It was very, very hard. I would write letters to my kids. I would sketch things on the top of or bottom of the bed. I would self-harm.
Would cutting or what?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
Mm-hmm, or burn. I prayed a lot the whole time I was out on the streets. My connection to God, I kept that as best as I could. I prayed the whole time, so I would pray, and sometimes I'd just get some sleep, but I would seriously just sit there. I'd also get high underneath there, and which was
could
very
you go
hard.
to the bathroom? I hate to get personal. But...
Not in a toilet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then he'd come home, right? And I would be able to leave or go outside or whatever. And I was a smoker too. That was so hard.
Oh my God.
That was so hard.
Yeah.
And then I would be able to like get up and he'd be like, yeah, Tiffany. I'd go through the front door and he'd be like, Tiffany's here. And I'd have to act like I just got there.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Is it time for dinner? And
wow.
And yeah, I was used to living a double life. I'm so glad today I don't have to.
That's heavy trauma. So you had your child healthy.
I mean, he was born.
No thanks to you. But
yeah. He was born with complications. I mean, he was in the ICU for almost 2 months, I believe. And this is like so beautiful. So I got to choose who adopted my baby, and I met her at this school function that wasn't my kid's school function, but it was something else, and somebody else's. And I met her, and she captured my heart, and she still does today. Beautiful woman, and she adopted my little boy. And when I was going to actually end my life when I left the hospital that day without my little boy. And because of what I had done, right, to another human being, because now it's in my face.
Right.
He's in ICU. Like, talk about, just felt so bad. And then the grief of not having my other 3 children. It was so much, Randall.
That's too much for somebody to handle.
It was so much. And I could not even think about a life without doing that to another human being. And then leaving my kids. And so I got a hotel room. I was in there ready to end my life, and I ended up calling to check on the baby to the mother that was going to adopt him. And she was like, what are you doing? Can I come get you? And we can go see the baby together, and we can start feeding him, while he's in ICU, because you're only allowed 2 wristbands, so only 2 people. She's like, I'll keep one and you can have a wristband. Telling you that wristband saved my life. And was her. And I wore that wristband for the whole duration that he was in the hospital. And she would come get me, and she would find me at trap houses. She'd pick me up off the street with all my belongings, put them in her car. We'd drive to the hospital, and we'd have these meaningful conversations. And she just showed me straight unconditional love.
That is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. She is a wonderful person. Yeah.
And we bonded over that. And that's what kept me alive, because then I got to see that I was still important. Wow. And then after, I still used after, a couple years after he was born, and she would let me come to all of it. She would invite me to holidays, birthday parties. I got to show up for every birthday party. And then fast forward to today, I just moved into a new house. And
with a white picket fence and white furniture.
It does have white furniture, but it has a white picket fence.
Okay.
I was like, yes, I did it.
So you're back.
Yes. And I have 2 of my children with me that live with me.
The ones that you left?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how did you get to that point, though? I mean, okay, we just left you. You're still visiting the child that you had, but you're still using. How did you get sober?
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I brought up the house is because I'm having a birthday party for my little boy that I placed for adoption in May at my house, right? And so that's why I brought that up. Isn't that cool?
Complete circle.
Yeah. So I'm so excited for that. But Yeah, I ended up getting sick and tired of sick and tired. I was running from the law. I missed my kids so much. I had run out of my inheritance money because my mom did pass while I was out there using, and I did get a big clump sum of money and had.
Which you ran through.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It also kept me, I try to always look at the positive side of that. It kept me safe from doing other harmful things.
Okay.
But yeah, so ran through that and just totaled another car and had no phone now. Like I was at the butt, had no shoes. I remember I went to go steal shoes from Savers actually. And
so you're basically at rock, even after all that stuff, you finally hit rock bottom. You have nothing.
And I wouldn't die. Like I kept trying to die. You know what I mean? Like not.
Damn, I can't die.
Yeah. Like, okay, this is not going to have me overdose, or whatever. And so I reached out. I wrote, I was praying again and got a message to write a letter to my family and ask for help. And I was really ready. And I wrote that letter over and over again. And I still have that letter today in my bedroom. And I gave it to my family and they gave me another chance. They picked me up one day and they said, well, I didn't know that day was going to be the day.
Right.
But they're like, if you want help, today's the day. And I'm like, wait, I just bought all these drugs and left them in the bush over there. Can I, you know what I mean?
Let me use one more time.
Yeah. And they were like, nope. And they just supported me and put me back like in everyday life. I remember like third day in, and I'm detoxing hard off heroin and fentanyl. Yeah, at home.
Without any drugs?
Without anything.
Wow.
And the third day in, they're like, they asked me to do something in the yard or whatever. And I was like, and I did it because going back to when I was younger, right? I was very obedient and I was so eager to get back into that. Not that I follow the rules now and so obedient, but I do have that in my soul. And so I wanted to I wanted just to show them that I was serious. And so, yeah, I ended up doing this tour sick as sick. And then So
you got it out there. And then did you go to treatment?
Nope, I did not go to treatment.
Wow.
But I did have all these charges and I went and advocated for me to do felony drug court, which I had been offered many times throughout the years of my use. And I declined. So they weren't going to accept me. But I was like, please, I begged, for another chance. And they trusted me and they gave me that chance. And I successfully completed that program. And it was such a great experience. It was what I needed, that discipline and that accountability. But yeah, I didn't go to treatment. Did some classes over at CJS, but yeah. Wow. But I got involved with USERA right away. I walked in there and a coach, offered to meet with me and I met with her and I gradually started seeing my life change. My recovery capital just started growing, because I walked in with nothing. Like I literally was still driving illegally and had,
She's not anymore if you're out there watching.
No.
That's an incredible story. And you seem, can you say you're truly happy now?
Truly, truly happy. I mean, I still have, we're humans. We have all emotions.
Oh, sure.
And
ups
so
and downs.
Yeah. So I get to embrace all feelings and get to lean into them and not run from them today. But I am truly happy, and I'm happy differently than when I was happy in my younger days or even before my addiction. I'm actually have learned to figure out who I am instead of constantly trying to make other people happy. Right. I get to use my voice and stand up for what I truly believe, and get to
do stuff like this. And the thing that's so cool about this is your story is horribly inspirational, and think of how many people you're affecting now.
Yeah, that's why I talk out loud. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to share about the using out in the street, because I know there's a lot of other women out there going through that. And
it's hell out there as a woman on the street. I mean, it is as a man too, but women are assaulted all the time and taken advantage. It's horrible.
It's very scary, very, very scary. Like I said, those 6 years out there was where all my trauma happened, things that I never knew existed,
Right.
like in this world, and in Salt Lake City, So
Yeah, if you're watching somewhere else and you think of Salt Lake as being this pristine, crime-free, wonderful place, we have all the same problems every other city has. So I'm glad you survived.
Me too. I'm so happy. Every day when I turn off my alarm, I say, thank you, Lord, for having me wake up and survived another day.
I'm alive.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be alive today. And I always thought throughout my whole life, even when I was younger, I can't do life. I don't know how to do life. Like that was in my head. Now in my head is, yes, I can do this.
You're an amazing woman. I appreciate you coming on this podcast. And I can't think of anybody who's more inspirational than we've ever had on. So thank you very much. It's like you're getting ready to cry or something. Did I say something wrong?
Well, you keep making me blush and you keep affirming me, and I appreciate that.
Well,
the praise is amazing, very appreciated.
And the thing people don't realize, it's hard to come on and tell a story like this. And we sort of get used to it because part of recovery is telling our story, right? But I sometimes people will say, God, you have all these people revealing all this secret stuff. And the point is not to keep it a secret anymore. Share it, and give others hope.
Yeah, that's exactly why. I mean, I'm not proud, right, of what
really
I did.
That I hung
and
out
this is very hard,
yeah.
But I'm talking about it to show other people that they can, there's hope for them. And, you're not too lost. Like you can recover from those things that has happened and were happening to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on. You've given a lot of people hope. I hope if you are watching or listening, you might share this because it's one of the more emotional podcasts we've done. And you give so much hope that you can return to a white picket fence at some point, right?
Yes, that I got,
I can be bad
I'm a single
for a long
mom.
time.
I'm proud.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, Razzle.
Thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.